Have you ever reached a point in your life where you thought, I know it's time to go, but why does this feel much bigger than just moving? I don't know, maybe you're changing careers or leaving a relationship, relocating. Okay, so raise your hand if you ever moved to a new city where you didn't know a single soul. Now, on paper, it just looks like a move, but deep down, it feels like you're choosing to close an entire chapter of your life. And that can feel heavy because as human beings, we tend to prefer to stick with the rivers and the lakes that we're used to. But sometimes there comes a time when chasing that waterfall is the pathway to your evolution. So if you've ever felt that way, today's episode is for you. Welcome back to Human Design in Real Life, the show where I take your human design chart off of that paper by using my expertise in sociology and my understanding of astrology and bring it to life. I translate how your energy shows up in real life, in your career, your leadership, relationships, and the major decisions that shape who you are becoming. Hi, I'm Erica. I'm a social scientist and certified human design BG5 career analyst and business consultant, and the founder of Satori Synergy. This is where I help people to understand themselves so that they can understand their assignment. I'm also a retired social worker who has helped individuals and organizations solve their social problems over the past 25 years in one capacity or another. So come on in, make yourself at home and subscribe. And shout out to those of you who have already been part of my tribe. Thank you for liking, commenting, and sharing. I see you and I appreciate the energy. Now, today's viewer question is from an emotional generator with a 4-6 profile, also known as their public role. She must leave her existing network and relocate for both professional and personal reasons. She asked me whether her human design offered any insight as she prepares to leave her home, her career, and the network she spent her entire life building, and to move across the country alone. Now, she also shared some astrocartography with me. And honestly, she seems to have a really good grip on that already. So rather than talking about where she's moving, what's coming up for me as I look at this is more about who she's becoming as she makes this move. When I look at her chart, what struck me just wasn't one gate or something. From my projector's perspective, the first thing I wanted to orient myself and her around was the stage of life she's in. Astrology helps me to clock the timing, while human design takes it a step further by providing the map of how to show up and where to focus your energy as you journey through life. So today, I want to talk you through what I saw. Let's get into it. Okay, so first, with a 4-6 profile, timing matters big. This is because the 6th line lives its life out in 3 distinct stages. First is from birth to 30, which I like to refer to as the caterpillar stage, because this is where you experience life completely as a third line. That means there's lots of trial and error because you're experimenting and you're getting your hands dirty, like any good pioneer would do. And then from age 30 to 50, approximately, this is what I refer to as the chrysalis stage. This is where you take a time out. You isolate yourself just like a caterpillar does, so it can transform itself into a butterfly physically. Us human beings transform psychologically and take stock of the lessons that we've learned in the school of hard knocks during the first 30 years of our life. So your Saturn return ushers in this stage. And from age 50 until the end of life is what I refer to as the butterfly stage for the 6th line. Because now you've embodied the lessons that you've learned. And now you are ready to begin to live out the rest of your days with your lessons and blessings on full display. Because you've been there and done that. And now you're a role model. Just like the patterns you see on the butterfly wings, you show people how it's done. This viewer is wrapping up her first Saturn return. That was my first question to her when I saw her chart. I can't say this enough. Human design tells us how we move through life. It's like an operator's manual or SOP at the job. And astrology literally clocks the life cycles and tells us when certain chapters naturally begin or end. Like any other milestone we have, Sweet 16, graduated from college, etc. I wrote an article about life cycles in my blog, so I'll link that in the description if you want to begin to explore that a little more. Saturn returns to the exact place it was in the sky when you were born 3 times in your lifetime, around ages 30, 60, and 90, approximately. Saturn has a way of asking some pretty difficult questions, though, like what no longer fits? What responsibilities have you outgrown? What structures have served their purpose? Now, many people change careers during their Saturn return. Others leave relationships. Some move across the country. It's less about escaping your old life and more about graduating from it. Again, think of it like the life cycle of a butterfly, where complete transformation is the name of the game. And after reading this chart and her self-reflections, I didn't see someone running away. I saw someone saying, I've completed what I've come here to learn, and now it's time for the next chapter. I feel like you are aware of and aligned with your Saturn return and accepting the changes that you are designed to go through. Another life cycle that you are upon is your third Jupiter return, which happens around age 35, 36. Now, Jupiter is like that rich uncle who we all love, and he visits us and blesses us with something, to give you a little boost in whatever you've been working on. Jupiter is about expansion and abundance, and at this age encourages you to contemplate the question, where are you ready to expand beyond your comfort zone and into a position of influence? So that is something you'll want to sit with as well. Now, one of the biggest concerns that this viewer expressed was leaving her existing network. And that's understandable because the fourth line is often called the opportunist, because opportunities frequently arrive through trusted relationships. These are the people who've always known a guy or can get you what you need. But here's the thing I think people misunderstand about the fourth line. A fourth line isn't designed to stay attached to one network forever. It's designed to build meaningful relationships wherever life plants it. Sometimes growth requires outgrowing the people who knew you as the previous version of you. I see that as a natural evolution, not failure. And with your undefined G center being in the correct environment has a major impact on you. If you're connected to the correct network, you're going to thrive. The wrong environment will provide the wrong engagements and entanglements for you. And remember, the second number in her profile is a 6, the role model. Role models don't become role models because they stay comfortable. They become role models because life has asked them to gain perspective through experiences. So moving very well may be what she needs to become her best self. Another thing I noticed is that this viewer has single definition. And I think that's showing up beautifully in the way that you are approaching this move. You've already shared that you felt this move is correct for you. And that is your single definition talking. You're not here for advice per se. You're here to sample different perspectives and ideas and experiences so that you can further reflect on that based on all of the undefined centers in your chart. Now, when I looked at the defined centers in your design, that made perfect sense from that view as well. I see you have the 952. Now, that's the channel of concentration. That gives you the capacity to stay focused long enough to work through something internally and logically without constantly seeking outside confirmation. Kind of like tunnel vision. You also carry the 3955. Now, that's the channel of emoting. Now, that's an emotional wave with feelings that spike up and down, up and down. So, if you aren't in the correct environment to connect with others by provoking their spirit to be their higher self, you may feel some type of way sometimes. I also noticed that you carry all three death gates. Those gates describe areas in your life where you're naturally less susceptible to outside influence. Let's put it that way. And your death gates, where you're designed not to listen to others. They're in Pluto, which is all about transformation. And you have the 43 activated twice, I see. You have that 39 twice as well in your unconscious self node, as well as your unconscious earth. And that 38, the gate of the fighter, you have that 3 times. All in your unconscious body, as well as your sun, north node, and Uranus. That's a lot of Capricorn energy, determined to climb to the top as a natural born warrior. That's what I see when I look at all of that. When you combine single definition, an emotional decision-making process, and all three death gates, you get someone who is remarkably capable of arriving at deep personal conviction all by themselves. So when you say, I know this move is right for me, I believe you. Now, I could honestly spend an entire episode just on your variables because they're painting such a vivid picture of why this move makes sense. I actually covered this as part 2 of my Saturn alignment school. So let me give everyone the highlights. Your determination, that's that top left arrow that points left for you, is called hot thirst. Most people hear that and think immediately, okay, so drink warm tea. I mean, sure, maybe, but it's much bigger than that. Determination tells us how the body metabolizes life. Hot thirst bodies tend to thrive in environments that feel activated, warm, alive, engaging, just like full of life. Now, when I read your message, one sentence stood out. I feel isolated, you wrote. I can't self-actualize here. And to me, that sounds like someone whose body has already started receiving nourishment from their environment. Not saying that anything is wrong with the place. I don't know where you are or your circumstances, or if it's turned energetically cold or not. But what that signal in your sentence to me is informing you that your body has already digested everything that it was meant to there. That's also supported by where you are in your life cycle, wrapping up your first Saturn return and gearing up for your third Jupiter return that I spoke about. So most times your body knows when it's time for a new season long before your mind catches up to it. And then your environment is wet kitchens. So you're designed to thrive in environments where life naturally blends, which pairs well with your hot thirst determination. So this looks like, think coffee shops or farmers market, any type of like co-op working space or neighborhood cafe, community centers, things like that. Places wherever relationships happen organically, right? So now compare that to what you described. Isolation, feeling disconnected, feeling unable to fully become yourself. Those are very different environments. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the greatest gifts of this move isn't a job. It's the community that you'll naturally begin building there. Okay, I'm going to force myself to move on and stop looking at your chart because now I want to talk about your outer vision, which is your cognition, but I'm not. Your completely open throat, your undefined spleen and G center. Now, I did touch on that, giving you directions to your correct environment and network. But they all want to add to your story and share their piece of your puzzle, as well as your personality sun being in an undefined ego center. That's another big piece of your puzzle. And I could go on and on. But I will say this as I close. Speaking of your sun gate 21, because that makes me glance at your Incarnation Cross of tension. Now, your life's work or purpose, if you want to call it that, is to use tension to create movement for yourself and others. Now, I know tension sounds heavy, but think about like a guitar string or a cello. Now, I'm not a musician, but my daughter plays the cello, so I've seen this. So I'm going to try to connect these dots for you. Without tension, there's no music. And like too much tension, the string will snap, right? So just enough, that creates music. That creates resonance. Your core four gates are gate 21, 48, the 38, and the 39. Now, those gates ask powerful questions. What deserves my energy? What could be improved? What am I willing to fight for? And what needs to be awakened? This isn't someone who settles for a life that no longer fits. The tension you feel isn't just a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's actually maybe the force that is propelling you toward the right one. I'll leave it there. And I do thank you for allowing my insights. I trust that what I shared will help orient you and help others viewing this who share some of the various qualities and traits that I've highlighted in your chart. So those with the 4-6 profile, similar variable definition, your channels, life cycles, etc. Now, speaking of life cycles, I will circle back and end where I began. Because when I zoom out, I don't just see a woman who's moving across the country. I see someone whose entire operating system appears to be saying, you've completed this chapter. It's time to engage life in a new way. What I observe is you being presented an opportunity to respond and place yourself in an environment where the next version of you has room to emerge. Now, plus you're an Aries, whose main character energy is all about being in control. So that's a whole other conversation. But if you haven't already, go watch my video on Aries leadership traits for more insights about what that means exactly. And I think that one of the greatest gifts that human design offers us is that it doesn't tell us what decision to make. This has nothing to do with fortune telling. It helps us understand how to make decisions that are aligned with our trajectory and our professional and personal development. It helps us understand why a decision feels deeply aligned with the person we're becoming. If you have a question that you would like me to answer on a future episode of Human Design in Real Life, send me a DM with your question, along with a screenshot of your human design chart from my website or the official BG5 chart. And maybe your question will be featured in a future episode. There's also an opportunity for you to have a private analysis session with me. You can enroll into my Satori Alignment School. There, I'll get you oriented and aligned so you can thrive, because I'll guide you through 12 Satori codes. So that's if you're ready for a masterclass that's all about what is unique and elite about you. Or you can begin with my SOS session, which is actually Satori Code 1 of the 12, where I introduce you to yourself via the foundations of your human design chart. I'll put the link in the description. Until next time, Go be great, superstar.